an assessment of the Arab Spring.
A wave of violent protests have swept through Tunisia following the assassination of a secular opposition leader. Dozens were injured and more than 300 people detained during the rallies, which ended with anti-government demonstrators clashing with police. RT's Maria Finoshina has been following the dramatic developments in the Tunisian capital.
Welcome to CNN. Today, we're going to see one of the most important revolutions of the decade, the Arab Spring. Today, I'm going to interview the family of one of the most important persons of the revolution, the one who started it all. Welcome.
مرحبا أنا اسمي سمير بوزازي. أنا اسمي سليم.
Tell me, and everyone witnessing, how did this revolution begin?
I can still remember. It was like any other day in Tunisia until I can stand it. The phone calls, the screams, everything.
It's okay, Mom. My brother Mohamed Bouazizi was 26 when this happened. He was 4 years older than me.
This is Mohamed Bouazizi, the man who started it all. Arab Spring Revolution occurred in the Middle East and North America. It started in the spring of 2011, that's why it's got the name Arab Spring. It was all about the protests, rebellions, and uprisings against the government. For decades, the Arab population had faced repression of free speech, human rights abuses, economic mismanagement, corruption, and stifling of political dissent. With this revolution, the aspects that were unfair in the branches of politics, economy, and almost every branch were solved with this revolt and changed the country completely. This was the biggest wave of protest that brought many changes to the Arab world. This showed the Pacific manifestations could be powerful.
Did Mohammed work? How it started?
He worked for me and his 5 brothers. I'm a widow, and he always wanted to work for me and to sustain the family.
My brother, he was a breadwinner, but he didn't have the permit to sell these goods. I knew everything about this, but I never thought something like this would happen to him.
Never.
On December 17, 2010, Mohamed Bouazizi set himself on fire outside a local government office in an act of protest after being arrested by police for not having a permit to run a vegetable stall.
Mister, can I see your permit for selling goods? How that you don't have? No, come with me. Come with me. No, come with me. Come with me. No, I will slap you. Come with me. Come with me. Wait.
Witnesses informed you were in the place this happened. What can you tell us about it?
I was in the local buying some tomatoes. I always buy to him. And suddenly the police came over and took him, but I don't know where.
What do you want?
Tomatoes.
Okay. Mister, can I see your permit to sell things?
I don't have.
What do you have? No, come with me. Come with me right now.
Arab Spring was a protest that fought for pro-democracy that affected many Muslim countries. It spread through Tunisia, Morocco, Syria, Libya, Egypt, and Bahrain.
He went 3 times to the municipality, but no one helped him.
He didn't look for trouble that day.
He was yelling out because nobody listened to him and nobody wanted to let him in.
He hoped they would help him, but no.
Let me in. I have been mistreated. They took me everything I had.
Sir, please go away.
No.
Please go away.
No.
Please go away.
I'm tired.
Sir, please.
No.
Please, stop. Sir, please stop. Sir, please stop.
After your son's act and the start of a protest, where were you during this period?
I worked in the fields. It was olive picking season. On that same day, I got a call from my relative who said where I was. I was in the field, I told him. He told me Mohammed wasn't good. He was sick and in the hospital.
How soon after this did the protest started?
Exactly 2 days later, on a Friday, in a big way, but when Mohammed's car was still in front of the government and the fire was still burning Mohammed's body, some young men gathered around the government and started yelling at the officials.
What is the message of Mohamed Bouazizi? What do you think of the art people learned from Mohamed Bouazizi?
For 23 years, people have lived in oppression, humiliation, and corruption. The message was that any person was living treated, who suffers because of officials who is harassing them, who is kept under their food, who is seen as less, who do not like people like us. They don't leave us live. Muhammad suffered a lot. My son suffered a lot. But he worked hard. But when he set fire to himself, it was all about his dignity. How Muhammad said,
Dignity before bread.
dignity before bread. He always used to say.
Look what is happening in my house in Syria. This is happening outside my house in Morocco. They're bombarding me.
Justice for Mohammed! Justice for Mohammed! Justice for Justice! Justice for Mohammed! Mohammed! Justice! Mohammed! Our government! Our government! Our government! They take everything from us!
Government!
What are you doing this for?
Justice for Mohammed!
Everything from us! Everyone! Corruption! Corruption! Corruption!
Sir, what do you think about all this?
Justice for Mohammed. I just want to see my country the best country in the world.
Sir, what about this?
They ban social media. Many governments across the continent have banned media coverage of the Arab Spring. In Zimbabwe, they arrested many activists because of sharing videos of the protest. Mujaratsi Wisawi was fined $500 because of watching videos. No.
I'm your reporter, Isabel Arias. Thanks for watching and stay tuned. Protests for political reforms have been ongoing since January 26 of 2011, with continuing clashes between the Syrian army and the protesters. One day in July, 136 people were killed when Syrian army's tanks stormed several cities.
Protest since February 3, 2011. President Ali Abdullah Saleh is injured in an attack on June 4th. On November 23rd, he signs a power transfer agreement ending his 33-year reign.
Anti-government protests began on February 15, 2011, leading to civil war between opposition forces and Muammar Gaddafi loyalists. Tripoli was captured and the government overthrown on August 23rd. Gaddafi was killed by transition forces on October 20.
Egypt's government was overthrown on February 11 of 2011. President Hosni Mubarak steps down, faces charge of killing unarmed protesters. Elections held on November 28 of 2011, and protests continue in Tahrir Square and all around Egypt.